Hey everybody, welcome to RiverCity-Media Beyond the Booth. Howard Cheney here along with Phil Harris, and our special guest tonight is Coach Steve Sparks of the Fort Payne Lady Wildcats. Coach Sparks, thanks for joining us. I know it's a busy time for you, and you took the time to be able to come on our show, and we really do appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me. I'm always excited to promote our program, and this time of year, if you're a basketball coach, it's got to be the next to Christmas. So we're
Yeah, absolutely. And your area tournament will start. When is that?
uh, the area tournament is that we host the area tournament on Friday at 6 o'clock. The semifinals would be Gadsden City and Southside at Fort Payne at 6 o'clock on Friday, and then Fort Payne will host the winner on Monday at 6 o'clock.
I know I kind of jumped ahead of the season, but people have asked me, because it's not like it used to be. The state tries to ram everything together all at one time, and used to you had a few days before or a few days in between the regular season and the area tournament. Now they want it all together and all smack dab together and get it done and get it over with.
All in the same week.
Yes, absolutely. So that's why I was asking, because I know there's some teams that's got five area teams, and so theirs has got to start a little bit sooner than some of the others with just four.
Tomorrow, right? So when Coach Coker and we made the schedule in the spring, the area tournaments that the games didn't start on Thursday. They were Friday of this week, and then we knew we was in a 3-team area, so we wasn't going to start till next week, and so we scheduled Etowah and Anniston on Monday, Tuesday, and we had today's game, Springville, on Thursday night. And they sent out revised dates, back in the fall, and said that you had to have your regular season concluded on Wednesday, which was today, the 4th. And so we had games Monday and Tuesday. So we had thought about just not playing, Springville today, but they hadn't had a game. And so they wanted to keep this game because they didn't want to go into the weekend with, 5 or 7 days off. And so anyways, we played today as our third game in 3 days, and played afternoon, in front of the student body. So the players enjoyed it, and so did the kids.
We learned from the college football playoff system, you don't want no downtime in between your last game and your first playoff game.
Right, absolutely. There's always a fine line between do you play, do you not play, because you're always thinking, you don't want to get someone injured, but you really can't think that way because you're going to be practicing, you're going to be scrimmaging, so you just have to play it and, hope nothing significant happens.
Before we talk about the rest of the season, I do want to ask about today's game, being in front of the student body. The atmosphere had to be outstanding for your girls to be able to play in front of that group of people.
Well, it was good for Springville also, and us. We talked to them, and they wanted to come and give their kids an opportunity to play in front of a big crowd. He thinks he's going to make it to Jacksonville, and just playing in front of a large group, this close to the postseason is hopefully going to be beneficial for both groups. Because, even my group, even though it was a home crowd, they had a little bit of anxiety and a little bit of jitters, playing in front of a large group. So it took both teams, a few minutes to settle in. So hopefully, we both can gain some benefit from it today. And also, again, it promotes your program. You may have had some students that had never been to a basketball game, and they got to come. We didn't charge anything; it's free admission, and let the kids come in and watch. And just maybe somebody's in the student body that doesn't play basketball that can help you later, or just get people in the stands to support your team.
Well, speaking of that, Coach, throwing them in front of a big crowd like that, you want to throw things at them sometimes that are kind of, out of the norm, because sometimes you get caught in routine. So you throw something out of the norm, it makes them adjust. And I think that's good for them.
No, absolutely, because it's just high school players in general. If there's any deviation from the norm, they don't necessarily hit the panic button, but it's not smooth. And so, just anytime you can give them a little pressure, change up the routine to make them have to think and get not be comfortable. You can gain an advantage. I think just to give them a little bit of diversity or adversity. Hopefully help us. In the postseason.
Coach, even though you had the student body in there going bananas today, probably because it was out of class and everything, you always have a great following regardless of what's going on. So your girls has to be kind of used to at least one side of the bleachers being packed.
Oh, for sure. I mean, we've played several games this year where, both sides were full, standing around the baseline with, big time, as I want to call them, big time games, because we had, big time players playing in the games. A couple, we had, Scottsboro just last week. It was standing room only. They're number 1 in 5A. And then earlier in the season, we hosted Albertville, number 2 in 7A. It was early in the year, but it was packed house. So, when senior night on Monday night, we had a good crowd. So, we've had the opportunity to play in front of, big crowds throughout the season. And again, that helps. I mean, it really does. So hopefully today, with the students and, the girls wanting to play, play their best in front of, their peers, was a little added pressure to them.
Phil, Coach Sparks probably realized or thought beginning of the season he was going to have a really good team, but I don't know if he really expected this good of a team to show up.
It's always a fine line. You don't know really how, because you schedule in the spring, and we had 6 seniors last year that were, they were a veteran group. That a lot of them had played on varsity since freshman, and I had 6 seniors, and I did have a couple coming back. Zimri, Zaria, Kinsley, Worthey, Carly Cash. I had role players that were coming off the bench from last year, so you really didn't know how to schedule. But and you don't want to schedule extremely hard, and and you get an injury to one of your key players, and now you've got this brutal schedule, and you can't compete. But then you want to tough enough to where your kids have to play, and they get the pressure knowing it's a good game for the postseason. So looking back over 27 games, I feel like now that it's over with, we had a solid schedule, a good mixture of some really tough teams. We had some average teams, and played a few teams that are struggling this year. And you need a combination of all of those. You don't need a too easy schedule. You don't need a too hard schedule. Of course, as a coach, you want the perfect schedule. So, but looking back on it, we had a mixture that hopefully is going to help us in the postseason.
Phil, he was mentioning some names there, and one of them kind of sounds familiar. Do you know anything about one of those players, Phil?
Kinsley, an ace. Yeah. She's she really done well. I think she's really done well in the program. I think she's been a little hobbled at times, but one thing you say about her, and
she's
and I know Carly. Do what?
I said she's a scrapper for sure.
Yeah. Her and Carly Cash kind of go hand in hand. They get out in front of that press and really pressure the other team. Those two are just relentless. And, they a lot of times they're not going to be in the scorebook with a lot of points, but they're so valuable, especially when you put the pressure on.
Absolutely. And, and they've really accepted their roles well. And, and we talk a lot about, to the players, be a star in your role. It takes all sorts, all types of players to have a successful basketball team. I mean, if you've got scorers and no defenders, you can't maximize the team's potential. Or if you've got all defenders and no scorers, you're not going to maximize. It takes a good mix. And, Carly and Kinsley up on front of the press is tough for a lot of the teams we've played. And, one thing about both of those, Carly's, she's not big, and Kinsley's a little bit taller than Carly, but they both hit the boards well for smaller players. I mean, they'll get in there and, get boards, as good as we've got. So they really have adapted to their roles well.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I think with them is, really Kinsley is more of a guard, but she gets in there. She'll get them there and fight with the tall timbers. And, it's funny to watch Carly because she has so much effort. If there's a loose ball on the floor, she's going to end up with it somehow, some way. And I've told people, I said, I would hate to play with Carly Cash on the floor because she can get up underneath you and she is relentless. And I told somebody, I said, by the third quarter, I'd be throwing the basketball at her to please leave me alone. I mean, right. I'm wondering sometimes if you don't bring her over to the sideline, change her batteries, and then send her right back in because she's just nonstop.
She's nonstop, absolutely. I mean, they both do a great job of pressuring the ball, and then, like I said, they crash the boards, and they have really accepted their roles well. I mean, they know they're not, they don't expect to score 20 points a game, but again, it takes every type of player to make a successful basketball team, and they're a huge asset.
Yeah, I think a lot of times their defensive play creates offense. So, they have their role. They don't go in the assist book or anything like that, but they'll deflect a pass that starts a break. And that happens quite often because a lot of your offense, because you like to push the ball, create turnovers and push the ball, play fast pace. That's right. One of the things that this team does well. Well, Coach, I want to turn back to last year because I want to make a point. You lost to Mountain Brook in the region final. That game, I was there that day. They came out. Mountain Brook come out and shot the lights out early. So Fort Payne got behind. So I think, if I'm remembering correctly, it forced you to get into the press early, and you probably really didn't want to do that till after halftime. Well, you got back to within a point, but it seemed like in the second half they hit a couple of shots, and it seemed like Fort Payne got a little bit not tired or anything, but it just seemed like it just became an uphill battle. And in that type of atmosphere, that is tough. And the one thing I noticed about the team last year, they ran the floor well, they pressed, they created turnovers, but sometimes they struggled in the half court. Well, coming into this season, I think early in the year when I saw them play, they were kind of searching for an identity. They knew they were good, but everybody was trying to find their role. But as the season has gone on, and you got that win over Plainview, which was an outstanding effort, the win over Scottsboro, it seems like this team has found itself in their offensive sets. It seems like they're a lot more fluid. They take good shots. I think Naomi and Zimri complement each other. They're probably one or two scorers for the most part, but then you've got good shooters on the wing and great defense. I think this team has become a complete team.
I agree with you. it's hard to get the kids to see the big picture, honestly. But they want to start the first game and be, not necessarily. I'm not all stars, but I had a team last year, with 6 seniors, and those girls had, they'd played on the varsity since 9th grade. Then they'd come up through the middle school, 7th and 8th grade, and they, by last year, postseason, they was just a well-oiled machine. As I said, it takes all, different types of players. Last year's team was better defensively. They would get after you defensively, but I didn't have a lot of offensive, horsepower. If you want to call it that. We had Zimri that was capable of scoring 20, but the Libby Redden was, she could score 10. Then everybody else was, getting after it on defense, maybe 2 points, 4 points. But losing those 6 seniors and then coming back basically with one starter that had started last year, it was from scratch. And as they've progressed, they've bought in to pass up a good shot for a great shot. They've bought into, I can get rid of the basketball, I'll get the ball back for a great shot. Where early in the year, it was more one-dimensional. It was, I got it, I've got to shoot it type thinking. And then as the season progressed and they got more familiar with their offense and got more familiar with some of our sets, just become more cohesive, I guess, as a unit. And even though earlier we were not great offensively, we still played pretty good defense. But even that part of the game has improved on defense, and then offense. With Zimri and Naomi, as you called them, the 1 and 2. They complement each other. And then we've got Zaria, who the last few games has really filled it up from the perimeter. And then Monday night, Claire made 4 threes. And it's just seems like as we've progressed through the season, they've just got better. And again, hopefully that's what happens every year. You don't want to be the best in October. You want to practice and play to improve. And I'm glad that it's working that way so far. But that's one thing that we talk to the kids about every single day. At practice and at games, I'm not much of a philosopher. I don't talk philosophy. I'm not a big, ramble with the kids 30 minutes after practice is over. But one thing that we do talk about every single day is just short and to the point. We want to be better at the end of the day than when we started. Period. Whether it's at practice or the game, we want to be better at the end of the day than when we started. And overall, our goal is to be our best in February. And, it's time. The 23-4 season was great. Everybody enjoyed it. Balloons and party and cake, but it's over with now. It's just like I told them today, it's 0-0. The season was amazing, but, we've got bigger aspirations, and so does everybody else in the state. All these teams that won 5 games, their coaches are telling their players, hey, we've won 5 games, but played a tough schedule. We're ready. We're young. Now you're not freshmen anymore. You're sophomores, basically. So let's go 0-0, and let's upset some folks in the tournament. So, every coach has their own way of hyping their team up, and you got to be ready to play. So hopefully we're at our best up to date, today.
Yeah, definitely. So, and you talk about Naomi Wise. She has been a great addition to this basketball team. She's kind of learned her role, has gotten comfortable in the offense. And Zimri don't have to do everything. I mean, of course, you want the ball in her hands at crunch time. Naturally, she's a good free throw shooter. She can control the ball. She can dribble in traffic. But, as the offense has gotten a lot more fluid, I've seen that where Claire and Zaria are open on the wings, and they're the type of shooters, if they're open, they can knock it down. And so I think they have all kind of sort of worked together. And that's why I think last year when I watched this team play, I was hopeful of them advancing deep into the playoffs. This year, I'm a lot more confident. I like this basketball team. I like their mental toughness. They play hard constantly. If they're not shooting well, they just turn it up on the defensive end. They do whatever it takes to win.
Right. No, I agree. With Naomi, Zimri, they a lot of just like our team. You've got one good defender, you've got two good defenders, but it's a lot of teams don't have three good defenders and four good defenders. If you've got four great defenders, you're making it deep in the playoffs. And so with Zimri and Naomi, whereas last year Zim got everybody's best defender, period. And it was, she had to take, maybe one or even she got two people's best defenders at the same time. And so now with Naomi, you're getting Zim's best defender or Naomi, whichever one the coach decides they want to, crack down on the toughest. But if you've got those two, then you've got Zaria who can knock the shot down. Started off really earlier in the season, not shooting at a high percentage from the three, but we all know she can shoot it. Every coach knows she can shoot it. And so, you got her that can shoot the three. You've got Claire that can sub in and shoot the three. So now you're spreading the defense a little more. And then that opens up, Zimri's game. That opens up Naomi's game. So it's just, it helps the coach out a lot when you have a couple of shooters, and then you've got Naomi and Zimri who can, take most of the load on the points. But the postseason, I am really excited about the postseason. But again, you got to play every game. You've got to come focused. You've got to stay healthy. That's a huge key, is staying healthy. You've got 2 weeks, 3 weeks opportunity to improve. So we still have to take each day and work to be better than we were the day before, for sure.
Yeah, because there's no guarantees, there's opportunities. And, the biggest thing about basketball I have learned, there's so many intangibles to a basketball game. The favored team usually wins, but not always, because intangibles can change a game in an instant.
Oh, absolutely. You've got, fouls, you've got injuries, you've got emotions, you've got everything going in at one time. So it's the best team doesn't always win, which is not a bad thing. It's, you have to play and you have to be prepared and you have to perform from this point on every single game. I mean, you can't take a play. And we talk a lot about, every position. When you have a team like us that's not just packed with athletes and size, every possession matters. and that's, one thing, that I lose you. One thing that we've talked a lot about, is every possession. You can't miss a layup. You can't miss a defensive board. A turnover. All of those things add up. So every single possession is huge, and it.
You still hear me? We lost right the end of what you said.
Oh,
Are you still on? Okay. Yeah, I'd heard the very end of it. Well, Coach,
yeah.
I want to ask you this. Your coaching style, I know you're very hard on these young ladies. You practice hard, you play hard, everything, has a purpose. I was wondering, in a basketball game, these girls, do you kind of sort of turn them loose and let them be themselves, and then kind of correct on the backside, because you can overcoach.
100%. I've never done it. I don't believe in doing it. A lot of coaches do. If a player makes a mistake, jerk them out immediately and try to correct it. That's not my style. I had rather correct it at practice. Even at practice, I had rather, like I said, I'm not big on talking philosophy and just talking to hear myself talk. I'd rather, if a team, if we make a mistake in practice, I'd rather repeat and keep playing and talk them through it rather than stopping. I guess coach through, just through the practice. And we do practice hard. I mean, I'm sure you've talked to Kinsley, and I'm sure all the coaches practice hard. I don't know. I hadn't been to their practices, but we practice, 2 hours. We practice hard. We start on time, not necessarily finish on time, but we practice hard. The kids practice hard. They don't go through the motions. We're structured. The games, we know what we want to do, and we try to accomplish that. But I really like to just turn them loose within reason, within our game plan, within how we like to play. I don't necessarily want to micromanage every possession, but I want them to play their roles. If they're not a shooter, I really don't want them shooting. I mean, that's not, that's not me being rude or callous. If they're not a shooter, I don't really want them shooting.
It's just like if they can't dribble, you don't want them handling the ball either.
100%. If we're getting pressed, and I'm not going to put my worst ball handler down to handle the ball. I want my ball handlers handling the basketball. I want my defenders defending. I want my rebounders rebounding. And that's just how I want it. But I do enjoy the kids, just letting them play and make corrections, at practice, and I'm not big on just, I don't yell and scream at the players, and some coaches feel like that's how they have to do to motivate their team, but fortunately, I don't feel like I have to do that way for my team to be successful. And that's not me how I am personally. I mean, I don't like to, I'll get animated and get amped up at, the refs or whatever. But as far as, personally attacking the kids, that's just not my style. And, and I enjoy just watching the kids play and, just to see how far they've come this year has been the most enjoyable part for me. I mean, just looking back at the start of the season, we all know they had potential, but having potential and taking advantage of it and making it happen is, different things. So I've been, pleased. I always want better. I felt like this week after the Scottsboro game, I thought Scottsboro was our best game. Not just because they're a good team, but I just felt like we played well. Then we had the rest of that week off. And then this week, we didn't play bad, and the kids were not as hyped up after the wins, because they felt like we didn't play our best. Maybe we didn't play our best, but Springville today, they're like 17-6. Anniston was 16-7. So, we've played tough games and still, have won double digits and didn't play our best. So, it's an exciting time of year for us.
Yeah. Speaking of the game yesterday with Anniston, I had spoke to Kayla Worthey, and she said that game was kind of a little bit ugly. It wasn't a pretty game, but when two teams play together, sometimes it's that way.
Well, they play. I don't know if you've watched Anniston. They've got a great tradition. They've won state championship in the last 7 years, 5 years. They've got the same coach. They're athletic. They're fast. They play a matchup zone, 1-2-2 zone, and honestly, we hadn't played against a zone all year long, and so it was. I don't want to say a struggle, but it wasn't as easy. And it wasn't a fast up and down game where you could run off, 10 points off of the press. You had to work for every basket. It was a slow game. And, we were up at halftime, maybe 4 points, and then, got up in the fourth quarter by 8, I guess, and he had to go man. And then we executed our sets and, jumped up to about 18 or 20, and then ended up winning, I guess, 12 or 14 or 11, somewhere in there. But still, the kids were not, as excited because they felt like themselves they didn't play well. But that's just the style of the game. And as far as, a lot of kids gauge if you play well or not if I make a lot of points. And that's not necessarily the case. We missed some shots, but we still played pretty good because they're not a bad team.
That's one of those. You've got to win those kind of games. You're gonna run into them later on where folks are going to try to slow you down and make you play half court. There's no doubt about that. Right. And I want to go back to that Scottsboro game. We talked to Coach Childers the other night, and he said the first time we played them, we beat them handily. He said we hit like 18 threes. It was one of them nights where it wasn't who we played. You knocked down that many 3-pointers like we did, you take anybody out of their game. He said, now when we went to Fort, he said, of course they pressed us early, and he said we were able to hit shots. He said, but when we went over there, we were prepared for the press. We thought they were going to press us full court. He goes, they settled back in man-to-man defensively, and they had 3 players that really found their way on the offensive end. And it was a totally different game. He goes, and I had told our girls, this team is a lot better than you think. So I guess what was your thinking by not pressing them early?
That was easy. I pressed the first time and got beat by 4. I had thought going into the first contest that we needed to press, and I thought we could press, but we did, and then we left their shooters, and they can score in every position, and so we were leaving their shooters open, just not getting to where we needed to go, because they do a good job of. It wasn't that we was playing bad defense. but they were spreading the floor out so wide that you just couldn't, because when you trap, you're playing, 5-on-4, and you're leaving one of their best shooters open. And those girls have played so many games together. We're talking about, the improvement that our team played from the first game to the 27th game, how they've meshed a little bit and playing, more cohesive on offense just in 27 games. A lot of his players have played on varsity since 8th grade, 9th grade. And they play spring ball together. They play summer basketball together. They play the fall league together. And then they play the season. So they are a well-oiled machine. And they find the open, they find the open shooter. We always say one more pass, one more pass. They one more pass it, one more pass it, one more pass it till they get to the open shooter, and then it's money. And so, that did not work at Scottsboro. And, once you're behind, then you have to press to try to catch up. And so we ended up pressing the whole game. And, I think it felt like I told everybody that we got beat 38, but when I went back and watched film, it was 28. Not that matters, but they beat us 28 over there, and they scored 16 threes. And so going into the game, we just want to limit on the 3-point and allow them to basically score twos and not threes. That was our plan, but that didn't work out either. And so, going back and watching the film again, if they'd have scored 16 twos rather than 16 threes, that's 12. That's 16 points, and you take that 16 points from that 28. That's a 12-point loss to a team that was on fire. They played great. They wore us out. We wasn't in the game. And then you look at the stats. Naomi had 4 points. And, you knew that we, had to play. And we had to play differently than we did over there, because you don't want to do the same thing twice, because you're going to get the same result. And so we never pressed, not one possession. 32 minutes, we played half-court man, guarded the 3 extremely well. We handled their pressure well, and Naomi had a good game. Zimri had a good game. Defensively, we talked about Kinsley and Carly. They didn't score many points, but they guarded the 3 every possession. So that it was a big win for us, because they've got Nelson, who can score inside and out. Their last, I'd watched, I don't know how many games. I'd go watch them play when we didn't play. She is a tough guard for anybody. If you put a guard on her, she's going to the post. If you put a post on her out front, she'll go around it. So she is tough to defend, and we defended her well. That was the key to the game, was containing Nelson. I felt like, but the girls played from the tip. We scored first, and they were focused, and it was a big game for them.
Well, but I think also you brought a lot better basketball team to the table than when you played with the first time, because your team kind of sort of found itself and found their roles, and being productive on the offensive end, what had to be a key to this, because if you could match baskets, you weren't going to get blown out. And that's where I think this team has really improved is their productivity in the half-court offense.
Absolutely. That was, we beat Scottsboro last year at home. Um, and the key to compete with Scottsboro, you cannot go up and down with them. They will outshoot any team in the state, player by player. They have some great shooters, and you have to limit their possessions. And and we did that at home. 2, 3, 4, 5 passes, and Zimri, Naomi, they took high percentage shots. They were on. They shot at a high percentage, and then Scottsboro would take a quick shot, and opposite than over there, they were making them over there. They missed some here, and you go down and take a little bit of time, and then you score a 2. Now the pressure's on them a little bit more, and so we, controlling the offense here was really the key to the game, because at Scottsboro, even though we talked about it, the kids still wanted to rush up the floor, and they thought they were open, and a quick shot and a miss, you can't stay in the game. You can't stay in the game with Scottsboro doing that at all. I mean, you've got to control the game. You've got to keep them from, knocking down so many threes. And, kids played great. I mean, that was one of our best wins of all time. I would think that sticks out. I've had some big wins, the kids have, but this is, in the, it's up there for sure.
Coach Childress had a big compliment for you. He goes, "This just shows you why Coach Sparks has been in it as long as he has. He's a great basketball coach, and well respected amongst his peers." And I thought that was a pretty good pat on the back.
Well, I appreciate it, but I tell them all I've been fortunate. I tell people all the time I've got the best job, in the state. I've been it's my 31st year, at Fort Payne. I've never applied. It was my first job, and it's going to be my last job. I don't have. You always talk and hear people. They always want to go somewhere else, but. Fort Payne is home to me, and I've been fortunate. I've had some great players. Back all the way to 2000. That was my first year coaching girls, was in 2000, and I could call off. I've probably been fortunate enough to coach, I guess, 20, 22, or 23 all-state players in 26 years. So I've, you're only as good as your players. If any coach says they're not, then there's those coaches that I call, they like to, blow smoke, but we all know it's the players that wins the games. And, you work them hard as a coach. You do that, and try to have discipline and structure, but I've had some good players. They have, a lot of good players.
Well, I want to let you comment on a couple of things, and I'll turn you over to Howie and let him ask you some. Number one, Naomi Wise. She came to Fort Payne. Has she been more than you expected? And also, I want you to talk about your staff. Having people like Heather Powell on the bench. She is so great with those kids. How important is your staff?
I've been fortunate, again, not only to have great players. I've had amazing assistant coaches. You always hear coaches complain about their assistants, not doing this or that, or they've got to do too much. But man, I've had great assistants. I've had Coach Boatwright. He was 21 years as a JV coach and my varsity assistant, and you just don't have that much. I mean, you get an assistant coach who, A, doesn't want to be an assistant really. They just doing it for the money, or B, they want to be an assistant and, try to cause so much turmoil and backstab and try to get the job, and he didn't do that. So he was an assistant for 21 years. And, he retired or quit coaching, and on the floor, we still talk basketball all the time. Super good friend of mine. Now he's a principal at Little Ridge. And then I had, the Caleb Henshaw, which we've talked about him before. Younger guy who I still talk to, almost daily. He actually called just a while ago when my phone went off and I lost power and I had to flip it back. Young coach, but very intelligent, knows the game of basketball, who's going to be successful, which he is already. I mean, he's turned Ida around in just years. But
with a young team. Yeah.
Yes. But I had him as an assistant, for 2 years. And even though I'd been in it a long time, we still talked X's and O's, and I would get his opinion, and some of the the type of game that he had played when he played, and just some coaching clinics. He was very helpful. We talked strategy. We implemented some of the items that he thought would help our team. And then he left and went to Ider, and then Kyle Coots now is my JV coach and varsity assistant, and he does a lot of my defense for me. He assisted under Coach Coker some, and I've let him do. He likes to sub and substitute for me, and I'm good with that. That gives him an active role in in coaching and being a part of it, because nothing is worse than just being an assistant and carrying water bottles and towels. That's no fun. A lot of these coaches are like Coach Henshaw. They're striving to be head coaches, so they need an opportunity to have some responsibilities. And Kyle, again, great mind of basketball. He's young, likes to watch film, and he's an asset. And then now I've got 2 assistants that I didn't have before. It used to just be a 2-man band, me and the JV coach, but now we've got Coach Wise and Coach Powell. Coach Wise was one of my players, which is at first was a little bit awkward, because I'm I don't buddy with the players. I'll do anything for them, and they know that, and I'll stick up to them for them, under all circumstances. But, she was on one of my teams that went to 3 regional tournaments back in her day. And so that was a little different, having, a player and come back, but I've really enjoyed it, because I really liked Coach Wise when she was a player. She practiced hard, played hard, and now on our staff, I've enjoyed having her both as a player and then now as one of my assistants. And then, of course, you mentioned Coach Powell. We all know her. Know she's a great player, and she knows basketball. She's been a head coach, several different places, and can bring that to the table. And she doesn't have a desire to be a head coach really, and that works out well. She knows the game. gets along with the kids well. We always kind of tease her a little bit. She's the mama to them. She has the backpack with the tape and the scissors, and I don't ask what else is in there. But if they have an issue, they know who to go to. She does a good job of what I'm not. Like I said, I'm good to them. I don't buddy with them a little bit. I'm not as sympathetic to them as she is. Make sure they're okay, and I do too. But she does a good job with it well, for sure.
Yeah, I guess you say she's mother hen.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Howie, I'll turn you loose and let you ask a few.
Coach Sparks, we appreciate your time. 3 games in 3 days, and you're doing your second job right now. Took the time out to help, come on here with us there. You're there at your office there at the Huddle House in Fort Payne. And how do you juggle being a coach, a full-time coach, and owning a restaurant?
Well, just got to be organized, and
I'm out of it then.
you have to you have to manage your time for sure. I know what I need to do each morning when I wake up. I have my day planned, and I try not to deviate from it very much. And I know what I want to get accomplished before I go to bed that night, and usually I try to stay on task so I don't get behind. I've always got to, some people I know, they'll say, well, I'll do that tomorrow, and then, it adds up. So I always have, a motto, why wait, and do tomorrow what you can do today. And that's, I try to live by it. If not, I would get so far behind. I'm assistant principal at school also, and I do all of our athletic stuff. I do the dragonfly and check the grades and eligibility, and so you have to be on task or you'd get behind. And so I don't have I don't want free time. I mean, I'm not a free time type of person. I mean, I'm not a movie watcher. I'm not a television watcher. I watch sports. I do what I do every single day, and you just gotta stay on task. If not, you get behind. I want to be the best I can be at whatever I'm doing, and that helps me stay driven. It honestly does. Tonight, Mountain Brook and Vestavia played at 5:30, and my JV played their last game tonight also, and I stayed and after we played and finished up the JV and locked the gym up. If it wasn't my JV's last game, I'd be headed to Birmingham to watch Mountain Brook and Vestavia tonight. But anyways, I want to give a shout out to my JV. I said Coach Coots is my JV coach. They finished their season tonight 15-3. They lost 3 times to Abertville, so that was the only team that beat them, and I think they won the county championship, Marshall County. So my JV went 15-3. My 8th grade had a very competitive season, and my little 7th grade group was like 14-1. So they'd lost to Gadsden City 1 point, and then the next time we played them, they beat them double digits. So this year's really been a good year for girls basketball at Fort Payne. We've got some good players. I've got 2 middle school coaches this time. Coach Wright, Logan Wright, coaches my 8th grade, and then Coach Wise, Sheldana's my assistant. Her husband coaches my 7th grade, which is Naomi Wise's older brother. So he played college basketball and loves to do training, fundamentals. Does a good job with that. So we've had a good year for girls basketball this season at Fort Payne.
If I added that up right, you got a total of 10 losses all year?
Got the varsity's got 4, the JV 3, that's 7. My 7th grade had 1, and then the 8th grade, I'm not for sure, but they didn't lose, maybe 5 or 6. I'm not for sure. They're
Okay.
So had a good year. Absolutely.
Yeah, regardless, good things are happening at for the Lady WildCats coming up
Right.
in the next few years.
I've got a couple of players that play up on my JV from the 8th grade, Ansley Newton, and then Sarah Gonder. They're 8th graders. So the games they would play down on the 8th grade, they were good. Then when we moved them up and they didn't play with the 8th grade, they struggled a little bit, but man, we had a good season. Ansley, last week, I guess it was against Scottsboro actually. She had 35 points in a JV girls game, so she can flat out score.
Absolutely. Let's talk about this week and next week real quick. Three games this week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Then you won't play again until Monday. What's going to be your mindset as far as going into how hard will you practice the girls to get ready for Monday?
Practice. I'll get after them today and tomorrow. Tomorrow and Friday. Off on Saturday. We've got practice on Sunday, 3:30 to 5, which will be a lighter practice. We'll get up and down and get some shots in, go over scout team, and we've got a meal planned at 5:30 with the team, and then get ready for Monday. It's with girls, with my experience, if you say you're going to have just a light walkthrough, they come in thinking they're on vacation and at the beach. But if you come in and know that we've got to practice because we've got big games coming up, they'll respond with a good practice and a big game. It's that old saying, they take what you give them, plus that's exactly the truth. So we try to approach every day. I'd rather, instead of saying we're going to have an easy practice, I'd rather come in and be ill and grumpy and practice for, an hour and 30 minutes or hour and 20 minutes and find something positive and say, good job, ladies, let's do this drill. And if you make it in time, we're finished for the day. Then that gives them a little, rather than coming in and going easy for 2 hours and letting them just drag around, because that's not good for them and it's not good for me, because I don't like that. And I just again, we're a young team, and I feel like we've got additional potential that we've not scratched on. And I know, we're young in a way. And so we've got, we're still driving for the big picture. And you can't get it taking days off. I know they've had a hard 3 days, and I'm going to take that in consideration, tomorrow at practice, but we're going to practice hard. And two, as a coach, I've evolved. Y'all know Mallory Dadder probably from years past. Her son plays on the boys team, and she'll tell me a lot. She played. She has 2,400 points for me, and she was a McDonald's All-American. She was All-State player, and her son plays for the boys team, and she'll tell me all the time, she'll say, Coach, you've got to go back to how you used to coach. You're too soft on those girls. You don't run them enough. So I have to hear that from my old players. And but I've evolved over time. We do a lot of conditioning in practice. And when we used to just line up and run suicides and sprints at the end of practice, we don't do that anymore. Maybe I should, but it just seems like the kids are responding better by going hard in other ways. And so we won't run tomorrow, just sprints unless they're not focused. But they'll have a hard practice, and but I will take in consideration that they've had three games. Today's game we had to play today. I mean, Springville's good. We stretched the lead out starting the fourth quarter by 22 or 3, and I subbed Naomi and Zimri out because I always get anxiety this time of year. Should you play? Should you not play? How do you practice? Do you scrimmage because you don't want to get anybody injured? So I got Naomi and Zimri out today as quick as I could. Once I felt like the game was, under control. So,
Coach, you said you weren't going to run them. Then I heard sprints. I'm sorry, I'm a fat guy, but I'm still hearing running when you say sprints. I just
well, we don't line up and run sprints, even though still gets on me because I don't. After the Scottsboro game, she came over and hugged me next. That's how you used to coach. I said, what do you mean? She's like, you was on your players up and down the floor every possession. And, it's just, you just have to know your players. And again, it's 2026. It's not 2002. Kids are different. And if people say they're not, but kids are different now. I mean, not bad. It's just it's just a different mindset, and kids respond differently.
Yeah, and I think where you get at, I think sometimes when you get on kids too hard, sometimes they'll shut down. It's just the way society is now.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, and nobody wins when that happens. I mean, you as a coach don't win, and the player doesn't get better. So I get on them. I mean, I do. I get on them, but I don't downgrade them and belittle them, and and of course as a coach, and if a coach say they don't, I'd say they're not telling the truth. Sometimes other teams get the best out of the coach. I mean, you want to really win some games. You want to win them all, but there are certain games that gives you a little more. You want to win it, and so those games, I guess, gets the little more anxiety out of the coach and a little more temperamental, but man, I've been blessed for real. 31 years, and we're getting a new arena next year, so couldn't be at a better place.
Yeah,
Coach, I don't know if you realize this or not, but last year when you was on, I asked you about superstitions, and you said no, it's rituals. So you came up with a new terminology on here for when I ask people about superstitions, I also include rituals as well. And that is because of you, because you're like, no, we're not superstitious. It's rituals.
Right.
So do you have any new rituals? Since Mallory says that you've changed your coaching wise, have you changed your rituals from last year to this year?
No, I'm a man of habit. We always go eat pregame meal at Zaxby's every game. I catch heck from it, but why change a good thing, right? So we go eat pregame meal at Zaxby's every game, and it's been that way for as long as we've had Zaxby's. I know them, they know me, they know what we eat. We go every game. We went yesterday. We went the week before. So we do pregame meal at Zaxby's every game. I want them dressed and. Whatever they do in the locker room while the coach is not in there, I want all that finished. And, the start of the fourth quarter, I want them in their locker, sitting down, ready for pregame. So those are not, that's not being superstitious. That's just what we do. And, whether it's right or wrong, I don't know. That's just how we do it. I want them to match on shoot around, same shoes, same shirt, same shorts. I don't want somebody coming in, out of dress code. I just like it how I like it.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
That's right. I mean, I just want it. I don't think I'm too demanding, but I just like it. I like it like I like it. And, I want them on time and I want them to practice hard. We treat them right. This year they got, this is something else I caught slack on. I'm big on, I make the kids have the same shoes. I hate personally. I know other teams do it, which is fine. I don't mind it for them, but not for me. So, I went with pink shoes this year for the first time ever. And so I've caught slack from my players, from Capri, who coaches at Athens High School, to Alicia Williams, who's a doctor now at Vanderbilt. All these girls, Mallory, I mean, they give me heck because it's either we'd rotate. One year was all black, one year it was all white. All black, all white. So now they've got pink shoes, and then at Christmas I ordered them another pair of all white cool shoes, and they've got 2 new sets of uniforms, new practice gear. So I mean, they get treated good, but I don't want to say they deserve it, but man, they practice hard. We played a lot of games this summer, competitive games. We went to team camp, then went to Supreme Courts. And so, I'm not saying they deserve it, but, they need good stuff because they really do put in a lot of time and effort and, hard work. So, and I know a lot of other schools put in a lot of time and hard work also, but just hadn't been as fortunate as we have been by, the type of players. But I've got good players, and they practice hard. Even though they're good players, they practice hard every single day. I mean, maybe just 1 or 2 days this year that I didn't think we had a good practice. And that was when you go back to the old-fashioned suicides at the end of practice. But man, they do practice hard. And so, again, that's me being fortunate because I talk to coaches all the time. And I just talked to one before I got on the air, and she was complaining about how lazy her players are at practice. And, she said she moved them off the starting group and put them on the second team. And, if you're having to do that at game 27 in the area tournament starting Friday, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, y'all seen, I don't know. Y'all seen Mr. Harris has seen my team, and they play hard. All of them do. And I'm fortunate as a coach to have a group that'll play. They'll battle. We've lost, and we've played a tough schedule. Yeah, I do want to hit on my schedule just real quick. We've played Abbottville twice. They're ranked 2 in 7A. We played Scottsboro twice. We played Plainview once. Played Gardendale, which is good. Springville is ranked in 5A. They're good. Sandrock, we played them the first game of the year. They're 2A. They're ranked. So we have really played a season schedule. We've had some easier games, but we've also had some quality opponents. So hopefully that's going to pay off down the stretch.
Well, that you talk about that, none of them are easy, but it gives you an opportunity to develop depth.
Absolutely.
Folks comes off the bench, and you may get something out of somebody. Hey, in a pressure situation, I can put her in now. Where at the first of the season I couldn't, but I think I can now, especially if you get in foul trouble. And you were talking about me watching, seeing your team play. What impresses me, and this is a tribute to them and you, is that effort and mental toughness. You can see it in their face. They don't get phased. If they make a bad play, they just move on to the next play. And you don't ever see them, drop their head. I mean, they're always head up, and they just move on to the next play. And that mental toughness makes a difference in the fourth quarter, and especially when you get playoff time.
Coach just froze up.
He froze up.
Yep. He may have. If he's on
Got
his
a call.
phone, he may have got a call. Who knows?
Probably did.
We'll stick around for a couple seconds and see if he manages to get back on. But yeah, like I said earlier, Phil, you knew that he was going to have a good team, but I don't know if he expected it to be this good or not.
No, because that's what was my critical of last year is they struggled in the half court. Productivity. They could run the floor, play defense, transition. They were very good at that. But if you made them play half court, Zimri Craig was, their number one option. Everybody else was hit or miss. Well, now Naomi Wise comes in, and then like we had talked about is Claire Carter, and I'm trying to remember everybody. Zaria Craig. They're standstill shooters, but if they're open, they can knock it down. And then, of course, you have Kinsley, Worthey, and Carly Cash, who are scrappers. They get to the loose balls. They deflect passes. They make things happen, and it helps to create their offense. So that's why I think this team's got a good chance to get to Birmingham. And who knows if they win it all. I like this team because their production on the offensive end now, they're not one-dimensional. And I can tell you one thing. Zimri Craig, Howie, step inside the half-court line. That's her range. She can drill it from anywhere. Out. She's not really a wing shooter. It has to be out front. But man alive. And then she can take you one-on-one too, and then knock down free throws at clutch times. So this is a complete team. It's a young team, but they're very good. They have really established their roles and playing some good basketball right now.
You can tell by Coach Sparks speaking about his team that he's really excited about this team, and he's excited about being fundamentally sound all the way around. Here he comes back in. Hold on one second.
Hey, y'all there?
Yes, sir.
Sorry, I lost power, so I had to come out to the car. I didn't realize I was out of juice.
That's all good, Coach. I got one more quick question, then we'll let you get back to it. It's not about your team. It's about basketball in general. The lost art of shooting free throws. What the crap has happened?
Time. Kids don't put the time in. I mean, that's my opinion. And as a coach, free throws. Fortunately, we haven't been, in the situation where free throws, where they've cost us the game this year. The boys last night, had a couple of missed down the stretch that could have cost them the game, but they ended up coming out with the win. But and even I'm guilty as a coach, not spending a lot of time on it, because you spend so much time in today's game on passing, dribbling, and shooting, because you have a lot of players that's the only time they touch a basketball is at practice. And so, I know we all want to make free throws, but if you can't dribble and pass and shoot, the odds of you getting to shoot a free throw is not great. But, we always finish practice with free throws, and then maybe, in the middle of practice, we'll stop and shoot free throws. But if you've got, 15 players or 20 players, whatever, if you've got JV and varsity going at the same time, and you've got 6 basketballs, I mean, it's a lot of standing. And, I'm a believer in keeping everybody moving the whole practice. I don't believe in having 15 players with 1 basketball or 2 shooting at the same goal. So we stay active, but you don't shoot a lot of free throws, and the kids just don't put time in it. I mean, that's, to be an effective free throw shooter, I'm talking, you guys know, you've seen it. I mean, they need to shoot 100, 150, 200 free throws every single day. And kids just don't do it. I mean, they may shoot 10 and then they're bored with it, and I stink is what I usually hear. I stink or whatever, and then they don't shoot them anymore. But it's just they just don't stay in the gym and shoot free throws.
You got a point. I really hadn't thought about it like that, but yeah, you kind of hit the nail on the head right there.
I mean, you need to shoot free throws, 20 minutes, 30 minutes a day, and you just don't do that in a 2-hour practice. As soon as practice is over, they're out the door, and if you've got a 2:00 practice, they'll show up at 1:59 on the floor because they know they don't need to be a minute late. So they're going to show up just a minute early, and, then you get started and you just don't shoot free throws.
And, one thing I have saw is they'll grab that basketball, and the first thing they do is they head to that 3-point line. Let's fire up some threes.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's what they do. They all want to shoot threes, and they don't want to work on form. They'll come in the gym, and that's the first thing they'll do is start shooting threes or half court shots.
Absolutely. Coach, we appreciate your time. Best of luck Monday and the rest of the way. Hopefully you'll make it down to Birmingham this year and bring back that blue trophy. And when that happens, we'd love to have you back on.
Well, I hope we improve, and one game at a time. And and I tell the girls also, and you can't base your whole season on one game. I'll state that today before we even start the playoffs. They've had a great season, but we all, the players and myself, we've got high expectations. So who knows what that is, but we all have I guess an unspoken. We don't really talk it. We just know what it is, and I think the girls are focused and bought in, and they know what we want, and that's what we're going to work for. And as I said always, there's only one happy team at the end of the season. So why not us?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, that's one thing about it. You got, and we'll say it is 6 more wins, 1 at a time.
That's it. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, Coach, I want to ask you one question, and I had forgotten about this because I wanted to ask you about I don't want to go into the public-private school split thing, But do you think that in the future in basketball, we're going to probably go to region play over area play?
I've heard a lot about it, yes. And, I don't know if I really have an opinion other than it would make the job of scheduling so much easier. Because it now with, area play, we've got Gadsden City and Southside. That's 4 games. And so you've got to pick up 26 somewhere else. And if you have a quality team, sometimes it's tough to get games. And so if you went to region play, it would definitely, make scheduling a lot easier. I don't really know what the negatives would be. I think it would only be a positive, because if you're in an area with 3 good teams now, one team's going to be left at home. So, region play, if they take the top 4, if you've got 3 in one and 1 in the other, you're not going to have 6 usually quality teams or 5 in the same region. You're going to have 2 or 3, maybe 4. And so, I would think that would be the best way, for the good teams. If you're the team that just wants to get in because you want to get in and not play anybody, that would be bad for them. But for the schools that compete, if you're in an area with 3 good teams, somebody's going to be left at home right off the bat. And that's unfortunate, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Coach, we appreciate your time. Busy time of the year for you. Like I've heard Phil say many a times, probably one of the most exciting times of the year for basketball or any sport. The regional tournament's coming up, the area tournament and everything. But we appreciate you taking the time to join us tonight, and we'd love to have you back on later on. Before we let you go, though, any shout-outs you'd like to give out?
Well, no, I just, appreciate you guys, doing what you do. And again, I love, promoting our program. Anyway, we go to the Kiwanis and speak before the season starts. And you guys, because the kids really do. They could stay home. They could choose to do other activities. It's a 5 and 6 day a week job for these kids. They put a lot of time in, practice, games, summer workouts. It's preseason, it's off season, it's season. It's unfortunate they don't have enough time to really be a kid if they wanted to be, but man, they put in a lot of work, and and 2, it's not all bad. It helps them, I think, get ready for life and a job, because they're not always going to be the boss. They got to take some criticism at work, and somebody's going to tell them what to do, and they've got to be on time, and they've got to do it. So just all the athletes, really, not just my players, but all the players, around the state, they deserve a lot of credit, because they really do put in a lot of time. And and a lot of them's not going to college to play basketball. They're not going to make that their living. And so, they put a lot of time in it. And, hopefully they can make, friendships and so forth that makes them a better person. And as we all know, last a lifetime. We've all got friends we played sports with, and we can all talk about the things that we remember, years ago. And so hopefully these kids can do the same.
Absolutely. Coach, we appreciate your time. Can't thank you enough for it.
I appreciate you guys for what y'all do. Absolutely.
So best of luck coming up, and we'll let you get back to doing everything you got to do, because here it is 8:30 and you hadn't even really got started at some of the other stuff you got to do.
No,
but
that's all right. We had the late games at school and got everything cleaned up, so marking it off my list.
Good deal. So I know Phil appreciate it. I appreciate it. RiverCity-Media appreciate you coming on. So for Phil Harris, I'm the Howard Chaney, and our special guest tonight was Coach Steve Sparks of the Fort Payne WildCats. And go out and support them Monday night in the area tournament at 7:00.
6 o'clock.
6:00. 6:00. And they will know who they play after tomorrow night. But whoever they're going to play, I know they're going to be ready for it. So everybody, thanks for watching, and good night, everybody, and good luck, Coach.